Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video I'm going to be comparing the all-new Honda CR-V to the new HR-V. But before we get in this video, a huge shout out and thank to the Stockton 12 Honda here in Utah for giving me some time with this CR-V. I'll include a link to their inventory in the description down below so you can check out what they have currently. If you have any questions, just ask for John. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money, the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Under the hood of the CR-V, we have a turbocharged 1.5 liter 4-cylinder that goes through a CVT automatic. Fuel economy is 27 around town and then 32 on the highway, with power outputs being 190 horsepower and then 179 pound-feet of torque. Under the hood of the HR-V, we have a naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder that also goes through a CVT. Now, fuel economy with this is 25 around town and then 30 on the highway, with power outputs being 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we go over the front ends, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the CR-V, it definitely has a boxier appearance compared to the HR-V. You guys can see with the hood, it's just like flat there, and then you do have some distinctive lines. And then look at like the size of the headlights here, and then notice how the grille is pretty vertical there. It's all blacked out, which I think contrasts very nicely to the white. But again, compare that to the HR-V, whereas the HR-V is like all rounded off. Like, look at how the hood slopes, look at the lines on the hood, the grille, how it kind of like pops out a little bit. So yeah, it's crazy like how the style between two different vehicles from the same manufacturer can be so different. Now, popping around the side here with the CR-V, our tire and wheel setup is 235/60/18 in the front and in the rear. And then popping over to the HR-V, it is 215/60/17 in the front and in the rear. So smaller wheel, smaller tire over here on the HR-V, but about the same amount of sidewall with both of them. Now, you notice here with the CR-V how we've got these black fender flares. They're not painted though, and then you guys can see the bodywork there on the side. Same thing, but on the HR-V, it's black, but it's painted with the fender flares and the bodywork. Now, something to mention, this HR-V is an EXL, whereas the CR-V is an EX, so the CR-V is technically a lower package. Anyways, you guys can see with the mirror caps body painted on both of them. And then also the HR-V, all the window trim's blacked out, whereas on the CR-V, it's all chrome, and then it looks like we got a roof rack system here with the CR-V. Now, as you can see, the key fobs are identical because, well, the functionality with both the cars is identical. So popping into the back of the HR-V, you guys can see that, well, first off, manual hatch, but we've got quite a bit of storage space back here. This is one of the things that's really impressing me with this HR-V, is just how practical it is. And I do want to say, getting the hatch down is super simple. Now, popping over to the CR-V, it's actually the same exact thing. Manual operation there with the hatch. Now, when it comes to storage space, the thing that I'm noticing here is there's a little bit more depth, so like the loading floor is a little bit lower, and then there's a little bit more height as well. And so it's not like you get a bunch more horizontal storage, it's like you get more vertical storage. And then you guys can see a little charging port there as well. But yeah, definitely, I mean, it's a larger vehicle, it's got more storage, and then you got the same grab handle to plop. And then finishing things up with the rear ends of both the vehicles. Again, notice with the HR-V how it's kind of more rounded off, and then look at the taillight design. I think that's pretty cool looking. Let me know which one you like more in terms of the style. I kind of go back and forth, but I think the HR-V looks a little bit cooler. It's just my opinion. And then you guys can see the new taillights of the CR-V. And then notice the CR-V badge is actually all blacked out, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the CR-V definitely looks a little bit more boxy. That looks a little bit more rounded. Now, popping into the back of the HR-V, first off, I really like the door panel padding. I think that looks very premium. And then same thing here with the seats as well. It's the benefits of going EXL, right? And then let's see what the legroom's like back here. It'll be interesting to see the difference in space, but yeah, let's pop over there. So popping into the CR-V, you guys can see the difference in design here with the door panel. And then being an EX, we've got cloth seats here in the back. And then popping in, you know, surprisingly, it doesn't really feel any bigger. Yeah, honestly, it feels about the same here with the passenger cabin. But anyways, let's pop to the front of the HR-V first, and then we'll do CR-V second. Now, with the front door panel, you guys can see again with the padding here with the HR-V, and then all of our window controls, front two are automatic. Got your mirror adjustments. The mirrors do have blind spot monitoring. And then here are the front seats. And it's perforated all down the center portion. And then, popping in, nice. Ooh, fancy. So with the steering wheel, you guys can see with the design here, it's got adaptive cruise control as well as lane keep assist. You got some controls for the center stack. And speaking of center stack, here is that center stack. So notice we can see like fuel economy. That's what I've been averaging with this, 26 miles per gallon. We do have some drive modes. So we got a normal and econ and then a snow mode that we can go through. And then popping in reverse, here's our camera with it. And then we've got the Honda Mega Vent, is what I like to call it. And then you guys can see we've got our dual zone climate controls, heated seats for the front, wireless phone charging pad. And here's our shifter. We have an S mode, that's like our sport mode. It says hill descent control, funny enough. You've got your drive mode selected. And speaking of hill descent control, this has all-wheel drive if you guys are wondering. You can get it in front-wheel drive though if you want. There's a USB down there, parking brake, brake hold, and then with the center console. So yeah, just pay attention to the storage here. I think that's gonna be a huge difference with them. Glove boxes are probably gonna be the same. And then this one has a sunroof here at the top. Let's head over to the CR-V. Well, popping into the CR-V, you guys can see the door panel design. Again, quite a bit different here with the CR-V. Notice front two windows still automatic. Got your mirror adjustments, blind spot monitoring in the mirrors. And then front seat, pretty similar in terms of like the design, but obviously cloth versus leather. Still power adjustable. And let's see, start up here. Oh, fancy. So with the steering wheel, this steering wheel actually has more of like a baseline material around it compared to the HR-V, but still have adaptive cruise control, still has your steering assist, all of that. And then the gauge cluster is identical in terms of function on it. Now with the drive modes, we've got an econ mode, a snow mode, and then a normal mode that you can go into just like the HR-V. Then popping in reverse, still have a backup camera here. This is the less upgraded version of Honda's infotainment system, so it's a smaller unit. And then you can see you've got dual zone climate controls. Still have the Mega Vent too, by the way. Heated seats for the front as well. Still have a nice finish on them. And then you guys can see our charging area here. A little bit more storage here. And then this is interesting, like this shifter area with it. And then still have hill descent control, still have auto stop start, parking brake, brake hold. So all that's the same. You've got cup holders right here, center console. So I guess this storage here is a little bit more usable in the CR-V. And then glove box, yeah, it's about the same roughly. And then sunroof, just like the HR-V. Now when it comes to pricing, that HR-V sticker's for about $32,000, whereas that CR-V sticker's for about $35,000. Let's take them out, drive them, sum things up. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's your visibility over the hood. Both the mirrors do have blind spot monitoring. And throughout the rest of the rear. And well, let us see how the CR-V performs. And I really like this EX package because I feel like this is the value package with the CR-V. You know, mid-30s for the price, and you know, it has dual zone climate, it's got heated seats. Obviously it doesn't have a nicer, you know, upgraded leather seats that you can get in like an EXL, but I still think this is I feel like this is a nice feeling interior. Again, especially considering this is supposed to ultimately be an economy car. That's something that I think people have to remember about stuff like the CR-V. But getting up and moving, a pretty solid torque out of that powertrain right off the bat. We got a car salesman jaywalking. Yeah, it moves. It's solid. Suspension's pretty comfortable as well. Yeah, going to the stuff is really good. The thing that shocks me is I just drove a Civic before this, and that new Civic has such good suspension because that was probably the most comfortable Honda I've driven. It's interesting because it's the Civic, right? It's supposed to be the cheap one, right? But anyways, pop into the S mode, so it'll get more aggressive with everything. I will say the steering wheel doesn't bother me like I thought it would. Again, this is more of like baseline material use with the steering wheel, but it feels fine. Yeah, really good torque, and again, that's just partial throttle. It's one thing I love about this turbocharged engine, especially here at high elevation, is it helps the CR-V get up and move at a very solid pace. And what time is it? 3:31. Yeah, we're gonna start running into a little bit of traffic with these videos, but looks like we got a little bit of an opening here, so we'll get up and get our acceleration. Yeah, pretty solid. I mean, it moves. It gets up and moves. It's no rocket ship by any means, but it moves at a pretty decent pace. And so, yeah, summing things up here at the CR-V, I also want to talk about the seats. These cloth seats are actually pretty comfortable for cloth seats. Do they have lumbar adjustment? Yeah, it's got lumbar too. Cool. Yeah, so it's got everything you need. So yeah, they're pretty comfortable for cloth seats. The bolsters though at the top are pretty tight. They're not huge, so it's not a huge problem, but they are tighter. So that is something to note. Yeah, I love how smooth this is. Drives great. I like how it looks. I like how it drives. I think Honda's done a really good job. Obviously, this is not insanely sporty. I think that's the one thing that, you know, I've heard some people make comments on, but again, it's a CR-V. This is supposed to be like a just reliable, fuel-efficient crossover. And, you know, it accomplishes that. It's comfortable. It gets good fuel economy for the size. And so, yeah. Let me know what you guys think about the CR-V. Let's talk about visibility before we set off here in the HR-V. Here's visibility of the hood, both mirrors, do a blind spot monitoring. Set the rest of the rear. And, well, let us set off. HR-V, CR-V, lots of R's and V's with Honda. That is for sure. Also, I gotta fix this a little bit. Sorry about that. But anyways, first off, this interior definitely feels a lot more premium, right? With the nice padding on the dash and everything. And that's just what happens with every single automaker, right? If you go for this smaller vehicle, you can get a much more premium interior for less money. That's just how the automotive world works. But getting up and moving. On the low end, this doesn't really feel slower than the CR-V. Like when you're just barely getting on the throttle. So if you're like at low speed around town driving, I don't think that you'd really notice a difference from one vehicle to the other. Now when it comes to suspension comfort, it's pretty similar, honestly. If you guys probably noticed the walk around, I noticed that the wheelbase is like, this is a shorter wheelbase, but it's not as short as you'd think. So the ride quality difference isn't as different as you'd think, but I will say the CR-V is a little bit more comfortable. Not a huge amount, but a little bit more. And let's get up and get moving here. Yeah, pretty good. This is where I can definitely feel, actually, gotta put it in the S mode. That's what I was looking for. This is where you can feel the power difference. This doesn't feel quite as punchy compared to the CR-V when I was getting on it a little bit more there. And speaking of cars that don't feel punchy, Crosstrek, slowest car on earth. But let's get on it. Yeah. So when you get on it full throttle, that's where you really feel the power difference. So summing things up with this comparison, summing things up with the HR-V. I think the HR-V looks great on the outside. I kind of prefer the styling in this compared to the CR-V. I don't know why, I just think this looks a little bit cooler. And then when it comes to the interior with this, I really like this interior as well. Like I said, this feels more premium than that CR-V's interior. You obviously can get a CR-V that has an interior that feels just as premium as this, but you're obviously going to be paying even more money, and the CR-V was already a more expensive car from the start. And, you know, aside from that, picking a winner between both of these, it's kind of tough, but I'd have to say I feel like the CR-V makes more sense because it's a larger vehicle and it gets better fuel economy. Like, that's it. And it's like, even though this has a nicer interior, like if I like these two specific cars I just compared, I'd rather pay the extra money and get the CR-V and again get better fuel economy, more power, more space. Yeah, I think that's the route that I'd go. Let me know which one you guys would choose though.